Mr. Chair, we are now live.
Amazing. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Ajax Committee of Adjustment meeting. Pardon me, for this Wednesday, April the 26th, 2023. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustments is being held electronically and live streamed on the internet pursuant to the Committee of Adjustment Terms of Reference and meeting procedures. All regular practices and procedures of the committee shall continue to apply during this electronic meeting. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we may take a brief recess while they are resolved. Thank you for your patience. We'll now proceed with the meeting. I'll now call this meeting to order. Before we get started, I would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississauga of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home of the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action in acknowledging the United Nations declarations on the rights of Indigenous peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation, and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Before moving on to the application portion of this meeting this evening, I'd like to confirm whether there are any disclosures of interest from the committee members across the board.
No.
Okay. I'm seeing none. All right, then we shall proceed. And next, I would like to seek a motion to accept and approve the minutes from our previous meeting of March 29th, 2023. Is there anybody that would like to put forth that motion to adopt those minutes?
I'll put forth a motion to adopt the minutes of March 29th, 2023 for the Committee of Adjustment, Town of Ajax.
Thank you, Brian. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Tomas. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'd look to a vote on that motion to approve and adopt the minutes of March 29, 2023 as put forth and as seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, motion carried for none. Okay, so now that we've adopted the minutes, we'll move to the next agenda item on the screen, the mandate of the committee. The committee is bound by the Planning Act to assess each application based upon its ability to meet 4 tests. That the application is minor in nature, it's desirable for the appropriate and development use of the lands, and finally, in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The process for tonight's meeting will be conducted in the following manner. The applicant agent will be called upon, and at their option, they may provide a brief description of the minor variance application they have applied for. The committee members may ask questions of the applicant and or agent, after which anyone with a direct interest in the application will be given an opportunity to speak either for or against the application itself. Once a motion is put forth by a committee member, there will be no further input from the applicant or anyone having interest in the application. After a decision is made, notice will be sent out and there will be a 20-day appeal period. The decision of the committee may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal or the OLT by the applicant or a specified person, or public body, as outlined in the Planning Act. Please note that the third-party appeals are not permitted. After 20 days, the decision will become final and binding. If a building permit or other approvals are required, they may be filed during the appeal period. However, no permits or approvals will be issued until the appeal period is over and the decision becomes final and binding. A respectful decorum during this evening's proceedings is expected of all present at all times this evening. I'd like to now take the opportunity to introduce the committee members and staff. We have committee staff member Tomas Baca, Ken Elliott, Brian Hayes, and myself, I'm the chair of the committee, Wasif Ahmed. I'd like to also introduce the staff on hand this evening as well. We have Eric Simpson, who is the Senior Planner and Secretary Treasurer of the committee, Josh Estrella, who is a planner, and Sarah Moore, who is the Legislative Specialist with the Town of Ajax. That said, we shall now proceed with the application portion of the evening's agenda. And the first application we have is agenda item 5A, which is application A1023 for 3030 Ebony Street, as submitted by Hui Design Studios Limited. And the application itself is seeking minor variance from four different avenues. We have to permit a maximum accessory building height of 6.3 meters, to permit a minimum setback from the exterior lot line of 5.7 meters, to permit a minimum setback from the front lot line of 6 meters, and to permit a maximum lot coverage of 37%. Eric, can you confirm if notice was sent out for this application and whether there were any responses received?
Mr. Chair, notice was served and no correspondence was received.
Okay, perfect. Do we have, Sarah, do we have the applicant or agent on hand this evening?
Yes, we do have a representative.
Amazing. All right, so maybe I would look for the representative to perhaps just announce themselves, and perhaps they can give us, the committee, a brief detail on what we're looking at here with the application.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair and fellow committee members, as well as town staff. My name is Curtis Van Keulen of Hughes Design Studio. Our office address is 1A Conestoga Drive, Unit 301, Brampton, Ontario. And we're seeking 4 minor variances, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair. I would be glad to quickly run through some of the variances and then speak to the design principle behind the structure, and then just follow up with any questions that you guys might have. So firstly, with the minor variances you had listed already, we feel that all 4 of them are minor in nature. They do fit within the relative neighborhood. They fit within the intent of the zoning bylaw, and we feel that ultimately it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. A couple exercises through design that we went and worked on prior to submitting the actual application were to assess the rear yard detached garage structure against a similar structure, which would be located just to the north of it, directly beside it if you are viewing it from the side street. That structure will be of relative height, so them being about side by side, they would be fairly equal in massing. Our structure would be slightly taller. We have a dormer facing forward to the side street, whereas the neighboring structure has a gable facing the side street. So the massing is relatively similar. And then with the house itself, we've taken great care to design the front end of the massing to be, cognizant of the fact that we do have a nice street line along Ebony, and there's quite a bit of in and out and slanting roof structures. I'm not sure if the staff has the actual architectural drawings on hand to show, but there's a lot of variation within the built form, just to alleviate any massing principles. The complexity with this one, we do have a very large exterior side yard setback that we did not want to go too far into. So we're only encroaching in that about 0.3 of a meter. And that's the relief on the second variance there, the exterior side yard. So that kind of squished us a little bit to fit a decent single family home. It's modest in its square footage. It's modest in its height. We're not seeking anything overly large. And just the last point I would really look at would be the lot coverage. The lot coverage is both the detached structure for the garage and as well as the detached dwelling itself added together. So that kind of entails the 37%, making 4% over. Again, we feel that it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Everything sort of fits in nicely with the neighborhood, and I think it'll be a welcomed addition to the streetscape. But again, I'm a little biased on that. So to you guys, I would love to answer any questions you might have, and yeah, go from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Van Keulen. Can also confirm that you have received a copy of the staff report that the planner has put together so diligently, and are you familiar with the 4 conditions as outlined, and are you in agreement with those?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yeah, to your point, very detailed staff summary. We've reviewed everything, and we are in agreement. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then I'll open it up to the committee members for any questions in regards to either the presentation or the staff report.
I'll just ask a general question, please, and thanks. Thank you for your description of the architectural detail of the house, etc. Is there any particular reason why you went with looks to be a flat roof on the accessory building versus having a little bit of a sloped roof?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Member Hayes. The roof structure itself is predominantly a gable structure. So it does slope front and back if you are viewing it from the east or west side. Okay. On top of that structure, there would be a hip dormer that would face the side street, both towards the Cherry Road and towards the east property line. So there's a gable dormer that then sticks out front and, a shed dormer, my apologies, that sticks out front and back of that structure. So predominantly, if you were to view this from the side and not from the street, so that would be from the northerly direction, you would see predominantly a gable sloped roof with a pretty high slope, a 12-12 pitch, but then poking out of that would be a shed dormer front and back, and as well that would actually have a sloped roof on it as well. Okay. Thank you. That didn't come across in the drawings that were provided to us. And I have nothing against a flat roof, but given the detail you have in the house and looking at some of the other homes down there, is just sort of asking the general question. So thank you very much. Understood. Thank you.
I also have a question for the applicant.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Do you know what will be the difference in height between the main structure and the accessory building? Will they be fairly similar in height?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Member Baca. I hope that I pronounced that correctly. The actual difference in height, I am just going through to answer that question. Let me just scroll through the drawings that I have on my end open. They're relatively similar. Obviously the house itself is a bit taller. So we have the overall very tip of the roof on the house, probably about 29 feet, or that would be about 8.9 meters. And then for the accessory structure, the peak of the roof is sitting at about 20 feet. So it's about 9 feet less, 6.2 meters on that structure.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members?
Not for me.
Okay. I have none as well. I did have one, and either for Mr. Van Keulen or staff. What's the current status of this lot? Is there an existing building there? And if so, what's the footprint of that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I could answer that, and
Sure.
Staff could also as well, if need be. So what exists there now is a single family dwelling. Its exterior side yard setback is actually at 4.19. We've pushed our proposed side yard setback to the noted 5.7, so further away from Cherry Street or Cherry Road, my apologies. There is a detached garage structure behind the existing detached home currently. And the current house is a one-story bungalow structure.
Okay. Okay. And would you happen to know the current lot coverage?
I do not. It would be a bit less. It would probably be in the area of 32 to 34%, if I had to guess.
Okay. Okay. No, I can work with that.
Okay.
All right. Opening again one last time to committee. Okay, seeing no questions. This case, then I'll move on to see whether there's anybody else on the bridge that would like to speak either for or against the application. A1023 for 3030 Ebony Street.
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. Then if that's the case, then I will look to my committee members to see if there's anybody willing to put forth a motion for application A1023. Yes, Ken?
I would move approval of this application.
Okay, noted. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Brian. And any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, then I'll look for a vote. All those in favor on the committee, please raise your hand. Okay, motion's been approved 4-0. So that means the application A1023 has been approved this evening at the Committee of Adjustments meeting and subject to the appeal period. Thank you, Mr. Van Keulen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and fellow members and staff. Thank you so much.
All right, have a good evening. All right, if committee is ready, let's move to our second agenda item 5B, A1123. And this is an application for 52 Dobson Drive as submitted by Wasay Gulriz for Amara Mahmood and Mohammed Taha Muhyiddin. And the application is the committee does have a staff report that recommends approval of this particular application on the basis that it is meets the 4 tests and subject to 6 conditions in the staff report. Eric, can you first of all just confirm whether a notice was served on this application and were there any responses?
Mr. Chair, notice was served and no responses were received.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And do we have, Sarah, anybody here to speak for this application?
Yes, my name is Wasay Gulriz. I'm present.
Okay, perfect. So, Mr. Gulriz, thank you for joining us this evening. As I mentioned, the staff has put together a diligent report recommending approval for this application, and I'll hand over the floor to you to perhaps just brief the committee and myself on anything you'd like to share in terms of this application.
Sure. Thank you very much. First of all, the respected committee and the chair, the situation at the 52 Dobson Drive is that the owner has already made the below grade entrance for the personal use of the basement, and which is opposing the 2 bylaw requirements, which is section 4.2 and section 6.2.2. And the relief we are requesting is to permit the uncovered steps leading to below grade entrance within the north interior side yard with a minimum setback of 4.1 meters from the interior side right lot line. So this is what we have requested, and we have got the staff report on it. Yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay. And just before I hand it over to the committee members, sir, are you aware of the fact that there's of the 6 conditions, and are you aligned to the 6 conditions, or did you have any questions about the 6 conditions?
Yeah, the report I got is showing that the relief, what we are requested for, and at the end there is a comment saying the same, that this is only one thing, and I am not sure where the other 6 are written for this one.
Okay.
Because I was like keep on corresponding with the city correspondent on this one, and this is what we have agreed on, and we have presented the case.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Gilroy, are you able to see the shared screen through Zoom right now?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, and so those are the 6 conditions that that I was referring to on the screen right now. I'll give you a minute to maybe familiarize yourself with it, and obviously just am looking for an acknowledgement that you're A, of understanding these 6 conditions, and then B, aligned to deliver on these 6 conditions as well. Because if the committee here this evening decides to approve this application, it would be subject to any one of these 6. So I'll give you a minute or two to perhaps just read them, and for anybody else that would like to read them, of course.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, I have gone through all the 6 points, and it's good. I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In that case, then I'll open it up. Thank you. I'll open it up to committee members to see if they have any questions for the applicant.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Ken.
So the first question I had is, could we look to the picture attachments that are attached to the report?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, Mr. Elliott, if you could kindly give me a page reference, I'm happy to scroll.
I think it's the 4th or 5th page of the. It's a photograph. Okay, there we go. And there's a another photograph below it, I believe. So my question is, in addition, I believe there's a gas utility to be relocated as well as the air conditioning.
No, the gas is not in front of it. It's on the other side. So
Okay.
we don't need to move that, but in fact, we need to move the AC unit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the picture, it shows that there is a railing around it. If will the railing be retained in the revised stairs?
So we are revising the stairs. We are making more step towards the backyard, and the railing on the right side will remain, but the railing on the front, which we need to relocate those railing and make the steps to go in the backyard.
So the rear steps would have railing as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for showing the picture.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I, pardon me, the just point of clarity, perhaps the current utilities. Does that, and this is for staff. I thought so is it just the AC unit? Because I noticed that the AC unit, if I'm not mistaken, actually seems to be behind the fenced door versus the gas utility meter seems to be in front or in the path to get to the stairs on ground floor. Is that right? And if that's the case, when we say in condition 4 that an existing utilities must be relocated, does that mean the gas or does that mean the AC?
Mr. Chair, we're specifically referring to the AC because the steps will have to be redesigned to go up and down. So when they're redesigned, that will conflict with the AC. The gas meter isn't seen as a concern as it's only a slight projection from the wall. If it was closer to the actual landing of the steps, then it would be a concern.
Okay, understood. All right, thank you for clarifying. All right, any other questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none, then I will look to see whether there's anybody here in attendance to speak either for or against the application A1123 for 52 Dobson Drive.
Would you like to move a motion?
Okay, just give me 1 second, Tomas. I'm just going to try to see if there's anybody else in attendance to speak either for or against.
Okay.
No, Mr.
Okay, seeing none. Sorry, Tomas, hand it over to you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to approve the application A11-23, subject to all staff conditions on the basis that it is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate development and use of the property, and in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
Okay, noted. Could I get a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Ken. Okay, so I'll go Ken first, just because I saw the hand there first, Brian. But any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for the committee to vote on the motion as put forth. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, so that's all four in favor. So application A1123 for 52 Dobson Drive has been approved at this evening's meeting, subject to the appeal period, and after which it will become binding. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lores, for your time this evening, and have yourself a good evening.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Okay, then we'll move to agenda item 5C. This is the application is put forth for 2 Kingsford Court by Bushfields Inc. Pardon me, and the application number is A1223. The application itself is seeking relief from, pardon me, to permit a minimum setback from the south interior side lot line of 3 meters. And there are 2 conditions in the staff report that's been presented to the committee, and that is recommending approval. Do we have, was notice served, Eric, and was there any received responses?
Mr. Chair, notice was served and no responses were received.
Okay, perfect. And do we have somebody in attendance to walk the committee through this application this evening?
Yes, Alexis Beal from Bousfield.
Okay, good evening, Ms. Beal. Maybe I'll give the floor over to you to walk the committee through the nature of the application, please.
Great, thanks so much. Good evening to the chair and members of the committee. My name is Alexis Beal and I'm a planner at Bousfield. Our office address is 3 Church Street, Suite 200 in the city of Toronto, and we are the agent acting on behalf of the owner of the property located at 2 Kingsford Court. In October 2022, the owner submitted a site plan approval application to permit the development of a single-story warehouse building on the subject site. As a result of this application, city staff identified the requirement for a minor variance application regarding the building setback to the south lot line. In March 2023, we submitted a planning rationale letter outlining the appropriateness of the required variance, which you should have on file. The purpose of the requested variance is to request relief from zoning bylaw 95-2003 to permit a reduced setback of 3 meters along the south property line. In accordance with the town zoning bylaw, the required setback is 5.1 meters. Therefore, we're only really exceeding this requirement by 2.1 meters. Further to this, we are not proposing to alter any of the permitted uses on the subject site. I'd also like to mention that the proposed building complies with all other regulations in the zoning bylaw, including all additional required building setbacks and the required 10-meter setback and buffer to the TRCA lands to the east. We have received confirmation from town staff that the requested variance is agreeable, permitting we comply with the 2 conditions listed in the staff report. We've also received confirmation from the TRCA that they have no concerns with the proposal. And from a professional planning opinion, we do believe that this application is minor in nature and that the proposed variance does meet the 4 tests, and we therefore recommend approval of the application on this basis. I am happy to answer any questions you may have about the application, and I'd also like to say that the owner of the property is also with us this evening and able to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that briefing, Ms. Beal. Quick question. Are you aligned to the conditions that have been present in the current staff report? I'm assuming you have a copy, and so does your client?
Yes, we do, and I am aware of them.
Okay. All right, let me open it up to fellow committee members to see if there's any questions. Okay, nothing at this moment. Okay, got it. And is there anybody here, Sarah, to speak either for or against the application?
No, just Ms. Beal and the other applicant.
Okay, perfect. I think the staff report was actually done really, really well. In addition to, I think the briefing that you gave, Ms. Beal, I don't have any questions either. So at this point, I will look for a motion from committee if you're so ready.
I'll make a motion to approve minor variance application A12-23, subject to the 2 items set forth in the recommendation.
Okay, noted. Thank you, Brian. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I will second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Tomas. And any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as put forth for A12-23, please raise your hand. Okay, so application A12-23 has been approved at the Committee of Adjustments meeting this evening, subject to the appeals period, after which point the decision shall become binding. Thank you, Ms. Beal. Thank you, Mr. Applicant.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, so that concludes our application portion of our agenda this evening. I'd like to now move to other business. Is there any other business from the staff or committee members? Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting. Okay, Ken?
I would move adjournment.
Awesome. Can I get a seconder on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Brian. And all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, motion is carried. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.